Welcome to the Women's Bar Association of Illinois Cable Show. I am Judge Patrice Ball-Reed. I'm the past president of the Women's Bar Association, and my co-host is Jessica O'Brien, who's the current president of the Women's Bar Association. Our guest today is Justice Mary Jane Theis. She is serving on the Illinois Supreme Court. She began her career here in Illinois, and she started at Loyola University, and thereafter she went to University of San Francisco School of Law. She became an attorney here, and she was an assistant public defender for at least 9 years here in Cook County. And then she ran for judge. Well, actually, she served on all levels of the judiciary in Illinois. She was an associate judge first, and then she ran for full circuit judge, which she won. And she also ran for the appellate court, and then for the Supreme Court, where she is currently sitting. She began there in 2010, so she has a 10-year term, so she's got a long time to be with us. And then she's also been a teacher. She has taught at Loyola, Northwestern, and John Marshall Law Schools. She's received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Illinois Judges Association, the Mary Heftel Hooten Award from the Women's Bar Association, and the Access to Justice Award from the Illinois State Bar Association. And it has been our honor and privilege to interview all three women who have served on the Supreme Court, and she is one of them. So we really do appreciate their time. And now Jessica will begin to give the interview.
Thanks.
Justice, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, in reviewing your bio, you have a very impressive one. And my first question to you, did you always want to be a lawyer?
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. We all have our own stories of how we got where we are. I was very fortunate that I came from a family of public service. My dad was a state representative when I was little, and later he was a judge. And so my house was filled with discussion of the issues of the day. And at the time, the big issue of the day was civil rights. And I had the opportunity, for example, to go to Springfield where my dad was in the legislature. And I'd hear these impassioned discussions about civil rights, about discrimination, anti-Semitism, ideas that, of course, as a child were very new and troubling to me. But it was real clear to me that if you're going to fight injustice, that the law was the way to go. And then later my dad was in the courtroom as a judge, and I'd watch the lawyers arguing in front of him, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I think I can be that kind of person. I can achieve the big ideas that as a young idealistic person I was. I could do that in a courtroom. So did I start out thinking that I was always going to be a lawyer or I was always going to be a judge? Maybe not. But the spirit of my family certainly brought me to where I am today.
Now, from college, did you go straight to law school?
I did. It's kind of a long story of how I got to San Francisco, since I'm in Chicago.
Right.
San Francisco is a beautiful city. And the story has something to do with a boy with curly red hair. And he went out to San Francisco and for law school. And then I thought, well, maybe I will too. And the good news is we're celebrating our 45th wedding anniversary next week.
Wow.
But so I went to school out there, and it is a beautiful city. But it's a very small city and a hard place to work. So we came back, and I'm very glad that we did.
I am diverging, but congratulations on 40 years.
Oh, really?
45.
45.
45.
Okay. So what is the secret? Because obviously you've been a career woman and making it.
Well, it's choosing the right partner, as we all know. What did I know when I was that young girl who thought that California and curly red hair was the most important thing in life? I was fortunate enough to choose someone who has supported me through my professional life and our personal life. We have 2 children, we have 5.5 grandchildren, and we've been partners through it all. So luck is a big part of it.
Well, with your kids and family and career, what do you think are the key ingredients in balancing all those 3 different things?
Oh, how I wish I had an easy answer. I cannot tell you how many times I'll have a phone call from a young woman lawyer, and they'll say, Judge, can I talk to you? I have lunch, and I think I know exactly where this is going to go. And they'll ask me that question, and I wish I could just have this simple answer. You'd think that after all these years, we'd have figured this out, and obviously we haven't. I think in my own life, I know a great deal of it had to do with a wonderful, supportive husband. I will be honest and say that I worried terribly. Was I the best mother? Was I the best lawyer? Why couldn't I be more involved with the Bar Association? Why can't I be more involved at school? And all those kind of things. I worried and I worried and I worried. And now today I look back and I think of all the achievements, and the awards are nice and that, but of all the achievements I have really good kids and really great grandchildren. So I've been very fortunate. But I don't have an easy answer. It's a struggle, I think, for most women, trying to find a way to have this balance. And again, having a partner who's supportive is key.
Listening to you saying that you were feeling, well, I guess you didn't really use guilty, but you kept thinking
Could have.
you could have been guilty, that you could have been more involved with the bar organizations, but you've led a few different big organizations, really, including the Illinois Appellate Court. What is it? The Illinois Appellate Lawyers. Yes, and you founded the IJF, which is a great organization, of course, for all of us judges. Mm-hmm. So, what made you, or maybe the question is, do you think that it was worthwhile being involved in those organizations?
Very much so. I will say that my kids were real little when I went on the bench. They were 2 and 4. And going right to traffic court, for example, that was great because you work all day long,
sure,
and then you're done, and you have no homework, and then I go home,
yes,
and I could take care of my kids. And as they got older and I moved through the judiciary some, then when your kids get older, you have a little bit more time and more flexibility. And so I became involved in the Chicago Bar and the State Bar and the Women's Bar and the Judges Association. And to me, those organizations, I'm a very much a believer in the organized bar as to how the organized bar serves our communities. But personally, the people that I met through those activities are really the people who supported me in those very stressful times. I made wonderful friends, lifelong friends, and so I think that's part of it. It was how do you balance life and work? Part of it is holding each other up and getting to know people through activities. People who like all of us who have the same kind of stress, to be together and working together. So I think that's an added thing that bar activities add to your life. Okay. It certainly did mine.
Okay, we're going to take a break on that note, and we will return in a few moments. Thank you.
To Maddie, congrats on paying off all those student loans.
Finally, right?
How'd you manage that anyway?
I started tracking my spending, changed a couple of habits.
Wow, I'm kind of living paycheck to paycheck right now. I don't even know how I'm doing it.
Well, have you tried saving a little?
I want to, but where's that money gonna come from? Bill collectors, they're the worst. Am I right?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
Not home.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Welcome back to the show. And in the previous segment, we ended on a note where we were talking about balancing lives. And Justice Theis she's still working on it. She's going to give us an answer before we finish. But I wanted to ask her some more things about her position as a public defender. Now, that was your first job out of law school.
That's right.
And why public defender versus state's attorney versus U.S. attorney or even the city?
All of those are wonderful positions. It happened in my life, as I say. My dad was a judge, and I had an opportunity to go to his courtroom in 26th California and watch trials, and was very excited about being a trial lawyer. I'm very glad that I was in the public defender's office and took that route. I've had a real blessed life. My life is great, and I have a wonderful education, a great family. But I had an opportunity to meet people and be very proximate with people in terrible times in their lives. By definition, they had nobody else. I mean, that's public defenders represent people who are indigent. These people were alone and afraid, and I was all they had. And I like to think that I served them well, but I know this: I'm different because of that experience. I'm a changed person. I like to think that I keep them with me in my life. It's very easy, especially when you become a judge, to, everyone is very deferential to you, and everybody laughs at your jokes and all those kind of things. But I know that I've had the opportunity to be with people who are really suffering, and it changed who I was and who I am today. And I'm awfully glad that I had that opportunity.
Well, now, in terms of that, you had to take that home with you. How'd you let go of that when you left the office?
It's a real challenge. No matter what we do, and we talk about life-work balance, no matter what kind of work you do, that's very difficult, no doubt about it. But handling those kind of cases, and specifically jury trials when you literally have someone's future in your hands, it's incredibly stressful. Somehow I was able to survive, again, with a lot of support and friendships and the company of other great lawyers. I learned a great deal from the other lawyers as well, great trial lawyers. But I found at a certain point in my life that the stress really does get to you. It really can. I don't want to be a person who's burnt out or hardened from that experience. And I certainly was happy to become a judge, but part of it was that the pressure of those kind of cases can really be difficult in your life.
And you've served on each level of the judiciary. In terms of that experience, what would be the nuances for each to your mind in terms of what you've learned?
Right. Well, being an associate judge is usually those judges are assigned to high-volume courtrooms, traffic or other, enforcement cases or collection cases, those kind of things. In a lot of those cases, today, people can't afford to have lawyers. So they come alone. And very often on the other side, let's say the bank in a collection case or something like that, they have lawyers. And so as a judge, you have to be able to relate to the unrepresented person. And I think my experience having been a public defender made that a little bit easier for me, that I had the experience of dealing with people who were in crisis like that. Now, later in my life, I spent a lot of my life now on reviewing courts. So 17 years on the appellate court, and now almost 6 on the Supreme Court. And it's real easy to see these cases as pieces of paper, as briefs, and moving stuff around on your desk. But I like to think, I hope, that because of my prior experience, that I can still see the real lives that are behind all the paper.
Now, I'm sure you've written a lot of opinions. Are there any that stand out that make you say, okay, I did good there, or raise some questions in your mind about how you could have done it differently?
Oh, there are cases that I've thought about that I could have done it differently, but you both know as being a judge, one of the hardest things to do is to let go of a decision. I mean, you try your best, you dig deep down, you try to do your best, but you have to let go. And hopefully, I can remember some of them, but I've tried to let go. But I was very proud to write a dissent in a case involving automatic transfers of juveniles. I was a lone dissent in a 6-1 case, but the issues of how we treat juveniles in the state and really across the country has changed dramatically, and I'd like to think that my dissent was part of the voices that brought change.
You started the wave that brought the rest of it on.
I'm not taking credit for everything. I'm just saying I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to be part of that discussion.
That's exciting to be able to do something different like that. So in terms of when you went to law school, how many women were in your class?
Well, I'm not Myra Bradwell, and I'm not Marianne McMorrow or Rita Garman, but I'm like in the first wave after them. My husband was a year ahead of me. In his class, there were 7 women. In mine, there were 35. Now, today, that doesn't sound like many. Today, of course, it's almost 50-50. But at the time, that was a huge increase in women. And that sort of was true all the way through my career. There were very, very few public defenders. There were about 3 public defenders who were women. When I became a judge, there were a handful of women who were judges. So each time, I wasn't the first, but I was sort of in that first wave of women to move forward in the profession.
And do you think being in that first wave helped you make changes, or you saw the changes as you moved forward?
The system and the country and our culture were changing at the same time. Certainly, when I was a lawyer, I wore jackets with big padded shoulders and little ties, because that's, I wanted to be like the other lawyers, and they were all men, so I wanted to look like them, and I wanted to practice law like them, and I wanted to sound like them, and it took me a long time to realize that to really be effective, I had to find my own voice and find some authenticity about myself, and that I'm a woman, and I'm comfortable with that, and I like it. And the more I was able to realize that I could be myself and find that authentic voice, the more successful I think I was as a lawyer.
Now, any suggestions for young women attorneys out there about laying their path or what their brand should be in terms of going forward?
Well, I do think being comfortable in your own skin is really important. And we know certainly that one of the key things is to find mentors. And from my own experience, given how I just described the world as it was when I became a lawyer, almost all of the lawyers were men. And so I had wonderful mentors who were men. And we should never forget that it's not just the women helping each other. There are wonderful men who are really dedicated women. Justice Tom Fitzgerald was one. Certainly Justice Gino DeVito. Both of those people were really, really good to me. But I had to find my own voice, my own way. And I think that's young women need to be able to find a level of comfort about themselves so that they can be themselves. And I think that's it takes some time to be able to do that, though. It takes courage and experience.
Yeah, I would think so. And you've got a lot of courage and experience. It's so exciting. We're going to take another break right now. We can come back and ask you some more questions. Thank you.
I fight because every second counts.
I fight because this year, in the U.S. alone,
over 500,000 people will die from cancer.
I fight because 1 out of every 4 deaths.
1 out of every 4 deaths in the United States.
1 out of every 4 deaths in the United States is caused by cancer.
I fight because last year cancer killed over 7 million people.
7 million people around the world.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight because it is the second most leading cause in death.
I fight for the 12 million
more that have been diagnosed.
I fight.
I fight. I fight because cancer is not selective.
It is not judgmental.
Because it does not choose sides.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight because I don't want to lose my friends and family.
I fight because I want to see.
I got to see.
I will see my next birthday.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight because if it does,
when it did, everything changed.
I fight because it won't.
It won't.
It won't happen to me.
I fight because it happened.
It happened to me.
I fight because 60% of cancer deaths
could have been prevented.
I fight so my children won't have to.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight for a better today.
I fight.
I fight.
I fight for a better tomorrow.
I fight because battles may have been lost.
we are fighting a war.
I fight.
I fight because we will win this war.
We will win this war.
I refuse to fight.
I cannot fight.
I will not fight alone. I fight for a cure.
Because there is a cure.
Together, we will find a cure.
Together we will find a cure.
I fight for hope.
I fight for hope.
I fight because I want you to survive.
Please
join our fight.
Please join our fight.
Please join our fight.
Welcome back, and we're still speaking with Justice Mary Jane Theis, and I'm going to ask her some questions about our theme for this year for the Women's Bar. Our theme is empowering through leadership, and you've been a leader of several different organizations. What do you think are the key skills to being a leader?
The key skills to being a leader. Books have been written about that, and seminars, and all kinds of things, and it's an important theme for the Women's Bar to have for this year, because it doesn't come naturally. You have to work at it. Being a leader, like any kind of a skill, you have to develop those kind of skills. But I do think important pieces about leadership include transparency, support for others. I've always been a really big believer in subcommittees and that kind of thing, getting people involved, giving them tasks to do. But it is really difficult to just jump into leadership, I think, of a large organization. It takes some time to learn the organization and its own culture and how it works. Some organizations are very top-driven and some are not. But to be the kind of person, I think, that others want to follow, you need to be able to have a real sense about who these members are and what their needs are and how they want to be involved in the organization. But I think, as I say, the payoff for having been involved in organizations, especially organized bar, on so many levels, it's been important to me, and I know for so many people, and the two of you are bar junkies just like me.
That's true.
You know that I mean, it gives you an opportunity to get outside of yourself and outside of your little niche practice, whatever it might be, and find better ways to serve the community, and at the same time, making lifelong relationships that can sustain you.
Okay. Having been involved in so many different organizations, Justice, I'm sure that you discuss about the culture, the politics. How did you, I don't know if you encountered some difficulties, maybe some challenges, and how did you, I guess, overcome those?
Well, I think my role, and again, each one of us is different, and we bring different things to the table in terms of leadership. I'm kind of a worker bee person.
Sort
of what I would do is I'd say, okay, I'll volunteer for this, and I'll volunteer for that, and I'll volunteer for this. And way too many times I'd volunteer. I'm not good at saying no. And I think that's, in some ways, that kind of hard work helps bring change into organizations. You can take on a leadership role when everyone sees that you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do the hard stuff.
Servant leadership, right?
Servant leadership, absolutely.
Is that basically the way you had led the different organizations?
Absolutely. I do a lot of judicial education programming, and I was chair of judicial education for years as well. And I found there that every time there'd be a program that no one wanted to teach, I'd volunteer for it. And that, of course, made other people very happy. But I found it was really good for me, too, to be able to challenge myself in areas that I hadn't really known much about. But yes, I don't know that expression. I should. It's a wonderful.
Does. I think that's a good way to look at it, too,
Yeah.
servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to being a judge, you were in the circuit court for 11 years, 17 years in the appellate court. What do you think are the keys to success for associate judges, for circuit court judges, and appellate court justices?
I think it's so incredibly important for judges to realize that these cases are not about them. It's very easy to become arrogant, to feel like you're the center of the room, and you're driving the entire dynamic. Rather, and I like your expression of servant leadership, to me that's the role that the judge has to play. The judge has an incredibly key role in our system of justice, and to approach that with humility, to me, is so important. And we know all have seen judges who have lost vision, and then the wonderful ones that we admire, who when you look back and see how they handled themselves in the courtroom, how they dealt with the lawyers, specifically how they dealt with the litigants, it's a sense of acceptance of the system that we have and how blessed and fortunate we all are to be able to participate in it.
I mean, really, I think now this explains everything that you've accomplished. You are known, this is cited by the Tribune, universally accepted expertise in judicial ethics, family law, and sentencing fairness. And also, you are the first recipient of the Women's Bar, Mary Heftel-Houghton. I mean, you now learning more about you, that explains everything that this is your legacy, that you believe that the judiciary and leadership, that you believe in servant leadership, and you've given back all your professional career.
I knew Mary Heftel-Houghton. She was, I was a brand new judge, and I was trying my first civil jury, and I was way over my head. She was a supervisor in First Municipal, and I asked her for some help on my very first trying a case as a judge in a civil case, and she was very kind to me. So it was a thrill when I received the award in her name.
I do believe you were the first Supreme Court justice to appoint a Hispanic lawyer to a full circuit spot.
Well, diversity is important to me, not just for lip service. I mean, part of it is my own experience of having been a woman when there were very few women as lawyers or on the bench, and so I'm here because there were those men who wanted to have a more diverse bench. But even more than that, I truly believe that as judges, we each bring our human experience. We have to do that. And we all come from different places with different life experiences, and it's really so key that we have different voices to be able to serve the very diverse community that we have. I'm not one for stereotypes. I hate to say all women are this way and all men are that way. So I'm not going to say all women judges are one way or another. But we bring a different life story to the bench.
Did you ever think that you'd be a Supreme Court justice? I mean, when you were a judge in the appellate court or even in the circuit court, when you decided to become a judge, did you ever think that someday you would be a Supreme Court justice?
Wow,
the state of Illinois, that's amazing.
As you pointed out, and thank you for not using any dates, I've been a judge for a very long time. This is my profession. This is my calling. I feel of all, and maybe you're talking about legacies, but specifically, my concern is the judiciary and the making our judiciary a place, people who serve our community. And I do that through education, and I do that through leadership in the different organizations. And if I had a legacy, I would hope it would be that I have improved the Illinois judiciary so that the people of the state of Illinois are well served.
That's excellent. That is a legacy, and you're doing it every day, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Our guest today was Justice Mary Jane Theis, a wonderful role model, a great jurist, and we're so pleased that she honored us with her presence. So we're going to end our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in.